I had just moved into my very first place all by myself. It was a small old house on a quiet street. It wasn't fancy, but it felt cozy and safe. The paint was a little chipped, and the floors creaked when you walked. But I liked that. It felt like it had its own history. The street was old, with big trees and other houses that looked like they had been there forever. Some of them looked a bit empty, like nobody lived there anymore. But it was nice and peaceful. I worked a simple job, came home, cooked dinner, watched TV, normal stuff. Everything felt good and new. One evening, I was curled up on my comfy couch, reading a book. It was a quiet night, just the sound of the crickets outside. Then, I heard it. A soft, tiny scratching sound. It sounded like it was coming from inside the wall right behind my couch. I stopped reading and listened carefully. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I frowned. Must be mice, I thought. Old houses have mice sometimes, right? I tried to go back to my book, but the sound kept coming. It wasn't very loud, just a little whisper of a noise. I told myself it was just the house settling, or maybe a tiny animal. I decided to ignore it. After a while, it stopped, and I forgot about it. A few nights later, I was in bed trying to fall asleep. The room was dark, and the house was super quiet. Then I heard the scratching again. This time it seemed a little louder, and it was coming from the wall next to my bed. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It sounded like tiny claws. Okay, definitely mice, I mumbled to myself. I pulled my blanket up higher. I even kicked the wall gently, hoping to scare whatever it was away. The scratching stopped for a moment, then started again, a little faster this time. It felt like it was moving, like something was dragging itself slowly through the wall. I pictured a tiny mouse making a nest. I tried to think of it as just a small animal, nothing scary. I told myself I would call someone about it in the morning. It felt small, like a problem I could fix with a trap or something. I closed my eyes tightly and tried to sleep, but the sounds kept coming back. They didn't happen every night, but enough times to make me feel a little jumpy. Sometimes it was scratching, sometimes it was a soft tap, 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 like tiny fingers. One night I was watching a movie in the living room, and I heard it, the tapping. It was coming from the wall next to the TV. I paused my movie and listened, tap, tap, tap. It wasn't random. It felt like a slow, careful rhythm. Then it changed. It sounded like something was being dragged very slowly and very lightly across the wall. It was too quiet to be a person, too big for a mouse. It made me feel a little chill. I tried to tell myself it was just the old pipes or the wind playing tricks, but the sound seemed to move with me. If I went to the kitchen to get a drink, I'd hear a faint scritch from the wall right there. It was like whatever it was moving through the walls, following me. It made the house feel less safe, less cozy. I tried to talk to my best friend Sarah about it. I called her up and said, "Hey, I keep hearing weird noises in my walls, like scratching and tapping." She just laughed. "Oh, honey, it's an old house. Probably mice or squirrels. Get some traps." She made it sound so normal, so easy to fix. She didn't believe me when I said it felt different. When I tried to explain that it felt like it was following me, she just said, "You're just being silly. You're alone for the first time, you're probably just overthinking it." Her calm voice made me feel a bit silly, like maybe I was just imagining things. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I just said, "Yeah, maybe you're right, I'll get some traps." But deep down, I knew it wasn't just mice. It felt like something more, something smarter. Then, one stormy night, things got really bad. The wind was howling and the rain was hitting the windows hard. I was trying to read, but I kept looking up, listening. The scratching was louder than ever. It wasn't just in one place now. It seemed to be everywhere. Scratch, scratch, scratch from the living room, a soft tap, tap, tap from the hallway, and a low thump from the ceiling. That last one made me jump. The ceiling. That meant the attic. My house had a small attic that you got into with a pull-down ladder in the hallway. I'd never been up there. It was just for storage, I thought. But that thump from the attic felt different. It was heavy, like something big had moved. My heart started beating fast. I knew I had to check. I couldn't just sit there and wonder anymore. I grabbed my biggest flashlight. It was pretty dark in the hallway. I looked up at the ceiling. There was a small string hanging down, attached to the attic ladder. My hand was shaking a little as I reached for it. I pulled the string, and with a creak and a groan, the wooden ladder slowly unfolded and dropped down from the ceiling. It looked dusty and dark up there. As the ladder lowered, I heard it, a soft, tiny giggle. It wasn't a happy giggle like a child playing. It was a strange sound, almost like a little whisper of air, but it was definitely a giggle. It sounded old and very, very wrong. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. I froze. My hand was still on the ladder. I wanted to run, but my feet felt stuck to the floor. My phone was back in my bedroom on my charger. I had left it there. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? There's a giggling sound in my attic? They'd think I was nuts. Then, the giggling stopped. The whole house went quiet. So quiet I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears. The air suddenly felt very cold, even though the house had been warm a moment ago. And then, I heard a new sound. A slow, heavy dragging noise. It was coming from inside the attic, right above the opening. Drag, drag, drag. It was getting closer to the hole in the ceiling. It sounded like something very heavy, but moving very carefully, very slowly. Like it was trying not to make too much noise. Panic exploded inside me. I couldn't breathe. I tried to scream, but my throat felt tight and no sound would come out. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, then opened them again. I had to see. I had to know. My flashlight was still in my hand. I gripped it tight. I stared at the dark opening in the ceiling, waiting. The dragging sound stopped right at the edge of the opening. It was completely silent again. I could feel the cold air pouring down from the attic, like a draft from a dark old room. And then, slowly, a pale, thin hand started to reach down from the attic opening. It was a very, very pale hand, almost white, with long, dirty fingernails. It looked like it was made of old, dry skin like paper. It was very skinny. It moved slowly, like it was reaching for something down below, searching for something. It wasn't like a normal hand. It was too thin, too pale, and those long, long fingernails were wrong. It felt like it was trying to find me, or something in the hallway. My blood ran cold. My life felt like it was in great danger. Pure, raw fear took over. I let out a scream, a really loud, raw sound that felt like it tore my throat. It was the loudest sound I had ever made. I didn't think, I just moved. I scrambled backward, tripping over my own feet and falling hard onto the floor. I didn't even feel the pain. All I could think about was getting out. I crawled on my hands and knees for a second, then scrambled up, shaking. I ran as fast as I could. I didn't grab my phone, I didn't grab my keys, nothing. I just ran out the front door, slamming it shut behind me. I didn't even look back. My car was parked right outside. Luckily, I had forgotten to lock it that night, which was unusual for me. I tore open the car door, jumped in, and started the engine. My hands were shaking so much I almost couldn't get the key in. I put the car in reverse and sped out of the driveway, away from that house, away from that street. I didn't stop driving until I was miles away, at a diner in a different town, still shaking. I just sat there, trying to catch my breath, trying to understand what had just happened. I never went back to that house, not even for my stuff. I called the landlord the very next day and told them I had to break my lease. I made up a story about a family emergency and needing to move far away. I lost my deposit and had to pay extra for breaking the lease, but I didn't care. Nothing was worth going back into that house. The landlord seemed annoyed, but they didn't ask too many questions. They just said it was an old house, and maybe it was just a squatter. Sometimes people hide out in empty places, they said, like it was a normal thing. But they didn't really investigate. They didn't seem surprised at all. That made me wonder if they knew something about that house, something they weren't telling. Maybe there were rumors about it, secrets hidden in its old walls. To this day, I still don't know what was in that attic. Was it just a very strange, very scary person hiding up there? Someone who had been scratching and tapping in the walls all along? Or was it something else entirely? Something not human? The why of it all is what truly scares me. Why was it there? What did it want? And what would have happened if I hadn't screamed and run away? Would that hand have pulled me up? Would it have come out completely? I'll never know. I always lock my doors now, every single one, and I check every dark corner in my new place. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is super quiet, I swear I can still feel that cold air, that strange, stale smell. And if I listen very, very closely, in the dead of night, I almost think I can hear a faint scratching. And sometimes, just sometimes a tiny wrong giggle. I always wonder if it's still there, waiting in that quiet house, or if maybe, just maybe, it found a new place to scratch its way into. So next time you hear a strange sound in your walls, maybe don't just think it's mice. What if it's something else? What if it's listening,